Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians old and proud to serve our sovereign
The NGX capital, the MGX market capitalization for equities is forecasted to hit 170 trillion in 2026. The pipe exists. What has been missing is a deliberate, structured mechanism to channel that capital purposely into the productive economy. That is precisely why LCCI and NESD are standing together on this platform today. This is not ceremonial. The LCCI has for 137 years been the institutional voice for the private enterprise, advocating, convening, and driving the policy architecture that enables businesses to thrive. NESD's PLC has built a credible regulated market infrastructure providing liquidity, transparency, and capital access, particularly for the mid-market enterprises. The growth stage business and the regional champions that need capital but lack the scale for a full exchange of listing. Together we represent a powerful and largely untapped coalition, one purpose built to bridge the demand for capital in the real sector with a supply of institutional and retail investments waiting to be efficiently deployed. Three things must change, and one was meant to be precise. Capital flows not to potential, but to bankable, well-governed, well-structured businesses. LCCI and NESD must invest systematically in enterprise readiness, audited financial, corporate governance frameworks, ESG compliance, and investor relation capabilities so that our members can access the capital market as a credible proposition, not as a last resort after bank doors have closed. Nigeria enters 2026 with improved macroeconomic stability following key monetary and foreign exchange reforms that has eased inflation, stabilized exchange rates, and strengthened external borrowing. That is the foundation, but foundations must be built upon tax incentives for real sector listings, streamlined regulatory approvals, and a coherent sectoral investment framework must follow, and LCCI is advocating for that with its urgency. In short, as we enter the second half of 2026, the focus must be on consolidating reforms, gains, and building a resilient, sustainable, and growth-oriented economy. But let me be honest with ourselves. Let us be honest with ourselves. Reforms without productive investments are at their best stabilization. We need the next chapter, transformation, and transformation requires capital flowing at scales into the real sector. In the face of global turmoil, economies are recalibrating their partnerships and seeking new frontiers to boost growth potentials. The capital market is the growth engine that must drive Nigeria's industrial growth. I want to thank you for listening to the President's address, and I'm reading this on behalf of the President of Lagos Chamber of Commerce, Engineer Leo Kupuli. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, sir. Please, once again, let's put our hands together for the representative of the President and Chairman of Council, Sir Ladi Smith, for a job well done. All right, I have the list of here to be recognized. Please join me in as we recognize the presence of Head of Legal and Compliance, NASD PSC, Ms. Koha Okukulabe. Let's put our hands together for her. Thank you, ma'am. I'm also told we have with us the Deputy Chair of Industrial Group here at SCCI, Mr. Yusuf Amoye. Let's put our hands together for him. Thank you, sir. Last but not the least, here is Mr. Oludare Fajimolu, Head Research and Strategy, NASD. Let's put our hands together for him. Thank you, sir, for coming up. All right, we'd like to have the opening remarks by our MD and CEO at NASD PSC, Mr. Lunge Ekuhaide. Let's put our hands together for him, please. Let's keep clapping until he comes to the rostrum. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, President, ably represented by Saladi Smith. Good morning, Director General, Dr. Almona. Mrs. Ojone Kabir, representative from the Securities and Exchange Commission, and all the heads of various trade groups and sectors, I think it is, of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I think that my team, and I must commend them for this, they're so persistent. They have prepared something for me to present. I will adhere to them a bit, but I will deviate. I'm sure they're going to open their mouths a bit at some point and wonder why I'm going off script. But I think that it is important to do this because just like Saladi Smith said, this is not a talk shop. It is for us a very passionate endeavor because I grew up in my professional career at a time when Nigeria was industrializing and industrializing in a sequential way. There were companies like Oluwa Glass on the stock market. I know that many people don't remember a company called Onwuka Interbiz. There was Dunlop, there was Michelin, there was Delta Glass, you know, so there was Stair Manufacturing, Anamco. Nigeria was poised for the next level in industrialization. All that has disappeared now. And we don't believe anymore. That's the real challenge for all of us. We don't believe that we can restore this. I also grew up in a secondary school system that was public. It wasn't private schools or I think my school fees at the time was a few shillings or a few, not up to 500 naira per term. You know, so all of that has gone. But what I feel and what we feel at NASD, and I'm sure Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, is that all of these things haven't been passed through not too long ago, can be restored if indeed we are able to capture that vision of the past and begin to replay it. Why can't we have electronic vehicles? So we have companies in the East, they have some companies assembling, you know, and those linkages can still be there. So why can't Nigeria be the rubber producer for all the components of cars that are manufactured all over the world? That will needs to be restored, you know. So that's what this whole concept is about. That's what this whole seminar is about, financing growth, propelling real sector through the capital markets. The capital market is the engine room, you know, because anything we do other than drive businesses through patient capital will always fall flat on its face. Debt markets are good, you know, but the requirement for most businesses in Nigeria, and I'm sure the chamber will see all of this, is that you need to grow this business like you are nurturing children. It's so important. You know, they start, they stumble, they fall, they bring up courage again, they try, and then they begin to mature. That's what this is all about, you know, and I think it is so important for us to do this. For us, it's not just a job anymore. It is a mission. It is a mission for us to propel the real sector to the growth that we have always thought was a potential. Also, in growing up in school, they say to us that Nigeria is a country of great potential. I am over 60 years old now, and we are still nurturing that potential. That potential must happen, you know? And unfortunately, many of us think that that potential must happen in our lifetime. It doesn't have to, but we must set the marker to ensure that that potential happens. And that's what this is all about. So I'll just try and now shorten the remarks. I don't think you've come to hear me philosophize. I think you want to make partnerships and see how you can actually propel your businesses through a structured engagement with the capital market. I'm supposed to, yeah, okay. So, the real sector broadly speaks to the segments of the economy engaged in the production, distribution, and consumption of tangible goods and services, thus driving economic output, employment, and other measurable economic indicators. I mean, and I think you can look through these statistics. I mean, I think that's part of what Saladi Smith also presented. But you find out that the constituents of the Nigerian economy are lopsided in the services direction. That's mostly geared to a short-term orientation of an economy. And what really should happen, what sustains growth in an economy is actually long-term endeavor. You know, so there is a structural, I would say, challenge of the Nigerian economy. So services remain largest, but heavily dependent on real sector activities such as trade, ICT, logistics, and construction. So how do you do your business if you can't move your goods logically? How do you build a solid minerals business on the back of trucks that will break down on bad roads? You have to build rail, and you have to focus on how you're going to build how many tracks every year, rolling stock, and so on and so forth. You know, so these are the key things that need to be dealt with. And of course, job creation. The real sector employs majorly Nigeria's workforce. Agriculture alone accounts for 30 to 35%. Back-breaking work that doesn't produce big margins, but then we need to sexify it and see how we can achieve growth there. And of course, you see FX earnings in oil and gas account for about 70 to 80%. And that is what really defines Nigeria today. But we all know that that is not the potential that I have grown up hearing about. And I must also mention too that when I was in primary school in Lagos, there used to be a time when they would announce, ECN would announce about power failure. And they'd say to you that you should ensure that you sort yourself out in about 1 or 2 hours, that there's some overhaul being done. And in that 1 or 2 hours, you would have power restored. There also used to be a bus system. You see, so you see Lag Bus today. In front of my house at Adelabu Street, there was a dedicated LTCC, I think it was. And the buses used to come clockwork. I can never forget that, in front of Adelabu Street. All that used to happen in the past. Why can't we go back to that anymore? This is supposed to be a welcome address, not a presentation, so I'm going to leave that to Dari to do. Of course, you can see that this passion has taken over me, so that's why I'm going back into all of these things. So NES's corporate value proposition, deepen the capital markets, enhance investor confidence, and ease the capital raising process. Now, I think this is very important. It's important because many people think that the capital market is not part of what they should think about when they're trying to build their businesses. But I think it's the first thing you should think about, because we need to start getting ourselves used to that, because the banks will not give you the kind of financing that is required to help your businesses scale. It is so important that you start thinking about the structure of your business for the long term rather than for the short-term needs. And I know how difficult it is. I am an entrepreneur myself, and I find out that all you're doing as an entrepreneur is solving today's problem, because there's just so many. Maybe the fence of your factory has collapsed. You have to start thinking of that. Diesel, the power failure, transportation. You give your goods to a truck driver and you're supposed to go from Lekki to Ekpe. You find the man is in somewhere in Benue State. You are dealing with all of that. and then you've taken loans. And as you took those loans, the petrol price was diesel price was 965 naira. And then all of a sudden, some guy somewhere in the world thinks that other people are doing the wrong thing. He bombs them, and then the diesel price skyrockets to more than double what you had before. How do you begin to work that into your cost profile? And because you can't work that into your cost profile, you can't pay your debts, then the banks come circling around you. So all these are challenges that people have to deal with. So if I come here wearing a fancy suit, I think my suit is fancy, I don't know. If I come here wearing a fancy suit and I'm telling you about working the capital markets, you're just looking at me and you're thinking, I don't know what I'm saying. But that's the sensible way to grow businesses in this country. And like I said, and I said this deliberately from the beginning, we have to begin to believe again. It's so important for us to believe that we can succeed. Most times, one of the challenges of businesses that fail, and 90% of them fail, the smaller businesses or the growth businesses, is because they really don't believe that they can succeed. Because of all of these things that they have to find themselves dealing with, they just feel, look, let's just try our best. But you need to have that still in your will, and you need to work with the right partners, and you need to work with capital markets entities. It doesn't have to be NASD. You have to work with the kind of capital that can stimulate the growth of your business. Strategic importance of the engagement, as you can see, LCCI and NASD are very, I would say, there is a match made in heaven. The engagement aligns with the Chamber's objective of deepening private sector growth and expanding access to alternative sources of capital. NASD is a channel for delivering the company's, NASD's proposition is enhancing capital formation for economic development. And of course, with the success of a partnership like this, you now have the engagement aligning for Nigeria with broader national developmental objectives, economic diversification, private sector development, financial inclusion, and integrating the capital markets with the real sector. But I think you'll hear more of this, panel discussions, keynote address, and so on and so forth. Well, just a bit of publicity of what we do. Not so much publicity, but awareness, really. So we have this configuration of our platform. And we have the OTC Securities Exchange, and that is the flagship, where you have interesting companies. And if you look at our website, you'll see what those companies are. But of course, it's just a very small number, and we need to be able to grow those companies exponentially. And then we have a platform that deals with private markets and smaller businesses. It's called the NASD Enterprise Portal. And then we also have a digital securities platform, and it's based on blockchain. There's some I would say the digital securities platform based on blockchain appeals to the new investor community, and sometimes you get confused as to what this is really saying. But the long and short of it is that it allows people to be able to invest borderlessly and in a very rapid way. We've moved to T+1 now, on the main markets. But yes, the digital securities platform also gives you T+1, but more importantly, it helps you to sell to smaller investors, a concept called fractionalization. And I think that the digital securities platform lends itself particularly to construction finance, because if you are looking to, as a developer, you're looking to build your projects, you don't always need to go and borrow. You can actually sell to various strata of investors, You give a discount when your project is unproven. As your project becomes out, if your project gets out of the ground and it becomes, and it's standing and people can relate to it, you give a smaller discount, and until it gets to completion. And because you then have a marketplace where you can trade those assets, I mean, it becomes a lot easier for you to be able to raise finance in a painless way. And that's one of the things that we offer on NEST. And of course, the debt market is important. And so we also have a showing in the commercial paper market. They didn't tell me how much time I have to spend here, so I'm sure that I've overshot my time. But I'm almost rounding up. So why partner with NEST? I think it's a robust ecosystem for capital formation for long-term growth, access to different investor categories, enhanced corporate visibility, regulated market for investor protection, corporate credibility boosts, access to diverse capital categories, long-term perspective, cost-efficient, market development, collaborative approach. And the one thing that is missing there, show me the money. We need to be able to show you the money. You know, so after we said all these wonderful stories and you've prepared your business, you've done all you need to do, we don't want you to be all dressed up and have nowhere to go. We would be able to find the investors that suit your business. So that's what we stand for. So call to action. The challenge before us is clear. Nigerian companies require more growth capital. Businesses require more financing options. Investors require more opportunities. The capital market provides that bridge. So we say we should work together to unlock capital, drive enterprise growth, and strengthen Nigeria's economy. And they didn't write this for me, so I'll say my own as well. I think that what we are trying to do here is to build capacity and forge linkages. You know, so it's important to be able to initiate this as a start. For us, this is really just the beginning of the conversation. We want to be able to do this, if LCCI permits us, perhaps every month, so that it begins to seep in. Because you will find out that businesses that are members of LCCI don't realize that they have linkages, and everybody is trying to do it all by themselves. You know, if you don't collaborate in a structured way, in a practical way, you're just going to be fighting the waves all on your own. But if you, of course, they say if you join hands, breaking a broom and all of that, we all know all of that. And then we also want to follow the path of advocacy. If you want to export and you find out that there are impediments on the way when you're coming from the hinterland, we want to be able to speak to governments, I mean, in a collaborative way and with the voice of many people who want to get this job done, you know, and because we are all united in the endeavor, our voices become more impactful. These are the kind of things that we need to do, you know, and in the end, you also want to be able to have clear valuation for your business and initiate perhaps legacy for your business, because many of the businesses that have been built by pioneers have seemed to fade away when those pioneers go away. So we want to be able to have some kind of legacy structure on a capital market platform that is able to point to organizations that have been there for over 100 years. And I'm sure many people know about this product called Alabukun. You don't know the origin of Alabukun. Those are the kind of things we want to have in Nigeria. We want to have several Alabukuns that continue to transcend our lifetimes. So thank you. And I hope this event helps you in trying to improve your business. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Please put your hands together for our MD. As I sat behind there, I was thinking, if we had asked the MD to make presentation, maybe we won't leave here today. He's supposed to make an opening remarks, but he has done beautifully well. Once again, let's put hands together for him. What that test means is when you have the right persons in the right positions, it becomes so easy. The way he's speaking, if I'm a lady, I would have given him my card to say, I want to secretly date you. Once again, let's put hands together for him. Please, let's clap for him. All right, so we take the first presentation now, which is to be handled by the Head Research and Strategy of the same organization, NASDPSC. Please put your hands together with me, as we make welcome Mr. Oludare Fajimolu. Let's put hands together for him. I must confess, all the people from NASD are looking very sharp. Put your hands together once again for him.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you very much, and good morning once again. I am Oludare Fajimolu, as introduced, and I head research and strategy at NASD PLC. It's a huge pleasure for us to be here to discuss about this collaboration. It's something that we, as you can tell from Mr. Lunge's passion, it's a passion that is actually shared in-house. Everybody in NASD believes in the future of this country, and we believe that, as it is commonly said, nobody's coming to save you. Foreign investors will do their part, but we also have to ensure that there is the infrastructure and the framework for collaboration is solid and on ground, and that is what we are collaborating to build. So this morning I'll be talking about can you have the slides, please? I'll be talking about the collaboration, engaging with the capital markets through NASD PLC. Okay, this gives a little background about NASD, and I'm not going to dwell on it. It just shows about, explains or expresses the fact that we've been around for quite a while. The part I want to call your attention to, just 2 blocks. The last on the first row is the present stage of NASD, which is the fact that we have metamorphosized into an alternative asset exchange. As you can tell from Mr. Nunge's presentation, that we have different platforms that caters to different asset classes, and as a result of that, we are not only the company, we don't only serve the unlisted public markets. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, so we now have different platforms that can cater to different companies at different stages of growth and development. And the second block, which is the value proposition, which also Mr. Lunge talked about, but just to reiterate the fact that the 3 main elements. The first is the deepen the capital market, which is what we're experiencing right now. That is what influenced this participation or this collaboration with LCCI. It is one of the initiatives that we are pursuing in order to deepen the capital markets that makes us have this collaboration. The second is to strengthen investor confidence. And that means NASD as a company is licensed by SEC, but our license gives us the power to regulate companies that participate on our platform. So we create rules for these companies to participate, for these companies to abide by. These are these regular stockbrokers licensed by Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, issuing houses, custodians, and co that participate on NASD. So with that helps to give that boost to investor confidence when they participate on our platform. And the last element there is to ease capital raising process. As much as we have emphasized that a lot because we are a company that is driven by innovation. Just as Mr. Lunge highlighted that we have a digital securities platform where it's been positioned as the market for the future, because a lot of real-world assets are now being tokenized. But we also ensure that that investor confidence is there, which means we'll be innovative, we'll ease the capital raising process, but we'll not compromise on standards. We'll be flexible as we work, collaborate with the issuers and different partners, but we'll ensure that the market remains solid. This also is the same, it's the same slide, we've seen this before, but I'll just go talk a little bit about the different platforms just to give us a little more insight into what each platform represents. What I want us to take away from this slide in particular is that NASD is not just a capital markets infrastructure that comes about to give rules and to just create a platform. We collaborate with companies that want to issue shares on our platform or different types of asset classes. And we also take note of the fact that companies are in different stages of growth. And so our platforms are designed to address companies in different stages. So you have for instance, the NASDAQ, I'll talk about it a little bit soon, that focuses on private companies or SMEs that are in the growth phase. You have commercial paper for companies that need short-term financing, working capital, and co. So our platforms are tailored to meet companies, to meet the specific needs of companies. And that's really what's the thinking behind our platforms. The first one essentially caters to the public companies, which is the OTC exchange. That's our flagship platform. So this platform, only public companies can access this platform. And if a private company wants to access this platform, then the private company is thinking of becoming public. And so upon accessing the OTC exchange, then you are converting to a public company. And the only asset class on that exchange is equities. And of course, the funding objective usually will be for expansion, liquidity, secondary market activities, and so forth. Then the enterprise portal, which we abbreviate to be NASDAQ, that's NASD Enterprise Portal, which also serves as our private market. For this platform, only private companies can access this platform. So, the reason I'm going through this detail is to say, if you want to access NASD, you have an idea of the platform that your business will be on, and you also have an idea of you also know that NASD has a platform that will address your business need. So simply because you're not a public company does not mean you cannot access the capital markets. And simply because you are in a growth phase does not mean you cannot access the capital market. So there's a market for private companies, and permissible assets in this place will be equities, debt, and other forms of assets, depending on how what the financial needs are and how the instruments are structured. Typical funding objective will be companies that require growth capital, working capital, project funding, like the construction example that Mr. Lunke gave, can also access the NASDAQ, the private market. And then the commercial paper platform, this is open to both public and private companies. On our commercial paper platform, we have a public company such as Dangote Sugar had listed part of their commercial papers on the NASD, which is a public company, and then, of course, there are other private companies that are there now. We'll talk about some of them later on. We have power companies, agri companies, and so forth. And this is only a debt platform. And of course, it's a short-term capital need, so it's only for working capital. And then the digital securities platform, it's also accessible by both public and private companies, depending on the financial need of the company. And the asset here is digital securities, which essentially means that you are giving a digital representation to physical assets or physical entities. And so the digital representation can then be traded on the digital securities platform. We are currently in the second regulatory incubation for that. and diverse projects. The funding objectives are also very diverse. So essentially, that's a summary of everything I'm going to talk about today. So the subsequent slides gives a little more information about the specific platforms, and also speaks to how you can access the platform. And one thing I forgot to mention in the previous slide is that at the end of this engagement, we are going to offer a free free capital market readiness assessment for interested companies. So companies that want to raise capital, you can easily just speak to our representatives at the entrance. We have some of our colleagues are there, and you can indicate your interest, and we'll follow up with you after the event on assessing your readiness for the capital market. So if you think you want to raise capital, or you desire to raise capital, how ready are you to raise capital? Because from experience, we've seen what we have seen, several companies approach us and say they need to raise capital, and when we ask for the required documents and so forth, they are not ready. So we want to offer that service free of charge to begin to assess your readiness to engage with the capital markets, begin to look at the gaps that you need to close and so forth. And I'm sure the panel session will also address a lot about that. So I've already spoken about the OTC exchange. I think just a few things. These are highlights about our markets, the number of securities that are admitted and so forth. A few things I want to emphasize here is I mentioned earlier that this platform is only for public companies, and if a company wants to access, so a private company that wants to access the OTC exchange should also be thinking about converting into a public company. So a company that is planning to become public can start working on that right now, and over time will become fit and ready to access the OTC exchange. So the primary market capabilities are also available on this platform. So by way of issuing initial public offers or rights for those who are already on the platform, some existing companies on the platform have indicated interest to issue rights and so forth. So that's one major point that I think it's important here, that if you're thinking about converting to you want to be listed one day, this is a platform that you can begin to interact with. You can familiarize yourself with the requirements. You can probably register your interest to begin your capital market readiness assessment, so that over time you begin to put things in place to do that. And then some of the benefits is the fact that it gives you visibility, because once you're a regulated entity, you're on a very regular basis, daily basis actually, transactions on your stocks or your equities will be publicized, will be announced within the capital market and also beyond. And broadly speaking, there are two ways by which companies can be admitted onto the OTC exchange. There is what we call the company admission, and then the securities admission. The company admission essentially means that the company itself has indicated interest to list, and so the interest is being powered by the board of directors, the leadership of the company. The securities admission, on the other hand, is that some shareholders have the shares of the particular company, and they are seeking to trade the shares that they have. So in that case, according to the law, only SEC licensed exchanges or transactions that shares exchange on public companies, on the shares of public companies, are only permissible on SEC licensed exchanges. So NASD provides that platform. So shareholders of public companies that are not listed can approach NASD, and then we can admit their shares and then begin to trade on the shares. They can either divest their investments, so that's also another benefit for shareholders. You can divest your investments here, and you can also issue new shares if you're an issuer. And of course, the secondary markets is where trading happens, which is where most people are very familiar with the trading activities that happen on NASD. It's also done in a very structured and organized way on NASD OTC exchange. So this speaks to the route to the market for company admission. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we try to simplify the onboarding process as well as the capital raising process. So these are just very basic, just very few steps, but quite intricate but not, but with little heavy lifting, provided you are very conversant with corporate governance practices from the beginning. So the pre-admission, the first step is the pre-admission, where the company appoints an issuing house. Like I mentioned earlier, issuing houses are also part of our market. They are the ones that will facilitate the listing process. They advise on, essentially, they serve also as the middleman between the issuer and the market and SEC and so forth. So that's the pre-admission stage. And then once the application is made to NASD, then NASD comes with the review. Then we do the review, due diligence, we validate some of the claims of the companies, we go through we ensure that we cross the T's and dot the I's, essentially. That's one of the things that's the benefits of being listed on NASD because of the regulatory credibility that it gives. We have a very strong legal team that will also always do the review in alignment with SEC rules as well. And then once that is done, there is the dematerialization, which means essentially is that the shares of the company are then onboarded with the, we create a register with CSCS, and on the basis of that, the shares are then onboarded and can be traded on the exchange. Once that is done, then NASD makes an announcement and shares can be traded. So these are very short steps that you can take to be onboarded on the NASD, and if you want to convert to a public company, that is also, the issuing houses will work with you on that to make that a reality. This is the second route to the market, which I mentioned earlier, the securities admission. The main difference here is that it is championed by an existing investor or group of investors, as the case may be. Very basic steps. The investor already has the shares of the company that he wants to trade or she wants to trade, and then this does not require the participation of the company because the company is already a public company, and as the law suggests, you have to do it through a SEC-approved license. So the investor can approach NASD, appoint a stockbroker to facilitate the process, and then once NASD does does the necessary due diligence to ensure that the company and the shares are authentic and so forth, then it can be admitted on NASD and trading can start. But this is limited to the shares that are brought in by the investor, not by the total register of the company. Essentially, just to mention that we have two broad indices that we track on NASD, the general market, and then one that is channeled to pension index or to the PFAs. It aligns with the investment guidelines of PENCOM. And the reason for that is PFAs, as has been said earlier today, is the largest domestic investing block in Nigeria. So when such funds are looking for value, you want to create a basket where they can find such value. So the pension index on NASD is where such value is domiciled. As such, that you can say that's where you'll find the best of the blue chip companies on the exchange. So it's not restricted to pension PFAs. Other institutional investors or retail investors can as well track that and use that to boost their investment portfolios as well. These are some of the benefits of listing on OTC exchange. The second platform, which speaks more to the private companies, SMEs and private companies, is the enterprise portal. The main value proposition for the enterprise portal is that we've created a market where private companies can have access to the capital market. So it is not, some days ago I was discussing with somebody, and what we tend to see, especially when the financial services, in the capital market, issuers or companies will say there's no money, that they are struggling because there's no money. But when we also interact with investors, they also will tell you that they are not happy with the quality of companies that are available. So there is a mismatch. On one hand, the investors are saying that they can't find value. On the other hand, the issuers are saying that they can't find capital. So that means there is a mismatch. But NASDAQ creates that bridge that can bring private capital or investors in connection to connect with private companies. So that's the main value proposition, to make that bridge happen in a very structured way. So NASDAQ ensures the access to different types of capital for SMEs or private companies by integrating different functions and professional services required for capital raise into a portal. So the company may not necessarily have to start looking for investors, may not necessarily have to start looking for financial advisors. On this portal, we have registered financial advisors that they can be introduced to. We have, by reason of the fact that we are a market infrastructure, we have access to investors that would be interested in this kind of companies, and then a lot of integration happens because of that. So that's a major value proposition for the platform. And some of the benefits, it's straightforward, very straightforward. If you try to access the portal, the requirements are very straightforward. We also enhance the capital readiness. Just as I mentioned earlier, that's one of the things we've had to do because of the nature of the portal, is we've had to engage with several companies that are not market ready, and in a way give them that consulting service to try and prepare them for the capital market, even before we introduce them to financial advisors that will help them to package their books. So that's one major benefit for participating or joining this portal. That's the enhancements of the capital readiness for the companies, and then of course access to growth capital, and the fact that NASDAQ is being promoted by a stock exchange, a SEC licensed infrastructure, gives a lot of credibility to the private companies that are trying to raise capital from the platform. And it also positions the company for future capital raise, because once you engage with the capital market once, you begin to have a track record. And so what you just need to do is to build on that track record and continue to develop from there. So that's one major benefit of participating in NASDAQ, and of course strategic partnerships that transcends just 1 year or 2 years. The issuing house, for instance, are able to help you to structure your transactions. They can, if you require a capital raising program, for instance, they would help you to structure it and design it, and they work with you through the whole process. This is the ecosystem. I've implied the participation of these in talking. So essentially, we have the companies, which is the private firms, the SMEs or private companies. We have incubators who usually, in several cases, are the first contacts with the companies. And then we have the due diligence analysts. That is a term that is adopted internally for financial advisors or issuing house. And then we have the investors as well, who are the capital providers seeking high-yield investment opportunities in viable companies, in viable private companies. And then, of course, NASD, which serves as the exchange. So eligibility to join NASDAQ, very basic but essential. Minimum of 2 years operating history. And the reason for this is to try and separate what we'll call a startup will go through different phases, yes, but we don't want people to come with ideas that are unproven. So if you are, because you are going to be engaging with the capital market professionals, as well as in some cases you may be required to submit some documents with SEC and so forth. So we want to have proven concepts. We don't want flight by night enterprises, or because people can just come with different ideas just to see if they can, make it fly here. So that's why we have the minimum of 2 years operating history, proven business model, the growth potential. It needs to demonstrate some form of growth potential and willingness to undergo due diligence. This is very important because private companies, one of the challenges, I'll say dilemma actually, for private companies is that they want to raise capital, but at the same time they want to retain control, in some cases 100%. So you have to make a decision how you want to, if you want to engage with the capital markets, you have to, in some cases, seek control, some level of control, and this would also speak to the type of instruments that you want to raise as well. So you need that willingness to undergo due diligence, which essentially speaks to corporate governance. If you are not willing or interested to undergo due diligence and put specific corporate governance measures in place, it will not work. So as much as, like I said at the beginning, we want to ease the process of engaging with the capital markets, but at the same time, we want to ensure that only credible companies are on the platform. Otherwise, it will not all go well for everybody in the ecosystem. And these are some of the sectors that we focus. And just to mention, these sectors are not just, we didn't just pluck them. These are sectors that we believe have multiplier effects on the economy. In other words, if these sectors grow, it will have some form of benefit, some form of chain effect, beneficial chain effects on the economy. For instance, we talked earlier about how the fact that agriculture is about the largest employer of labor. So if we get it right with agriculture, we invest in it, we're talking about employment, technology, of course, that's the future, mining and solid minerals. This, we believe, is the oil for the future for Nigeria. If we get it right in the mining and solid mineral space, that sector has the potential to deliver what the oil sector is doing for Nigeria today. If we get it right, say over a period of 10 to 15 years, we believe that sector has a transformative effect on Nigeria. So, and then these are the steps to the left: business assessment, registration, due diligence. All these are free, but your engagement with the financial advisor is not free. It is negotiated with the financial advisor. We may try to use moral persuasion or, to try and help you negotiate and but at the end of the day, you have to pay some value along the line. And so it is after the capital has been raised, then the instruments that was used to raise the capital will then be onboarded on NASD. And that is the last point there that is called noting. So if it were a public company, you would call it listing. But in this case, because it's a private market, in an enclosed market, it's not going to be, your transactions and activities are not going to be publicized. It's going to be within the ecosystem. Only investors that are registered in the private market will see your activities. Only registered capital market operators will see your activities. So it's a closed environment, and so that is why it is called noting and not listing. So this takes us to our third platform, which is a commercial paper platform. I won't need to define that. We all know what commercial papers are: short-term instruments to meet short-term financial needs. And some of the benefits of participating on NASD's CP listing is, I mean, as much as the capital market is, the capital market, NESD essentially, is focused on long-term capital or patient capital, we understand that there is need from time to time for issuers may be required to have, may need short-term funding, which is working capital from time to time. So that is the thinking behind the commercial paper listing, and it also gives us the foray into the debt market. So it's an alternative source of capital, cost effective. If you those that have participated would really agree that it's really cost effective relative to other sources of capital, and we have a fast turnaround time. It also enhances your visibility because once your commercial paper is listed on NESD, it's also publicized. It's on our platform, it's on our website. Upon redemption, it is also announced. So indirectly, your company is also being projected to the world just by listing a commercial paper on NESD. And then, of course, the regulatory compliance thing is also there, which gives that market integrity behind, which puts the market integrity behind your instruments. These are some of the companies that have listed their commercial papers on our platform. In about a year, we've been able to, the value of listed commercial papers is currently about 160 billion naira. So this, which speaks to the fact that this is a viable segment for private companies to raise capital. And you'll see mostly from the list, it's only Dangote Sugar that is a public company. The others are private. So this is something that I think we should begin to consider as well. And the listings came from 6 different sectors, including agriculture, ICT, pharmaceuticals, power, real estate, and so forth. And these are the eligibility criteria to the right. Again, as much as we want to simplify the process and make it accessible, we also ensure that the standards are not compromised. If you are not yet at that level, we can work with you to develop, that's the capital market readiness thing, but we ensure that the companies on our platform are viable companies with sustainable business practices. And so that speaks to the thinking behind the eligibility criteria. And these are the features about the features of the CP platform. You can raise capital for the tenure can be between 15 to 270 days. The issue can be at a discount to the face value or interest bearing. What that simply means is that you can either decide to issue it at face value and place an interest on it, or you issue it at a discount, which means you are selling it at a discount, but you are going to pay back at full value. And then the minimum value that you can raise from the minimum value of the minimum value of the commercial paper that you can raise on this platform is 50 million naira, and thereafter 25 million. But there is no maximum. As I mentioned, we've more than 160 billion has already been traded on the platform or is listed on the platform. And then there's a possibility for a repeat issuance program. In other words, if you have a program, you working with your financial advisor, they help you to map a framework, maybe a 3-year program. Let's say, for instance, you need 50 billion naira based on your business growth projections. You don't need to raise all the 50 billion at once. You can raise it in tranches. So that's what it means by repeat issuance program. But you register the program with SEC, and then you come to the market and raise the money in tranches within the approved program limits. And then credit enhancement may also be arranged. This means that it can be underwritten, it can have some form of credit enhancement that would reduce the risk of of default to the issuer. So that speaks to the features, but then the process is also very simple and straightforward. The first step is to appoint a financial advisor, obtain a credit rating depending on the fundamentals of your company. you may need to obtain a rating for the instrument and for the company, or you may need only one depending on the fundamentals, and then you obtain a SEC approval for your issuance. And then, of course, you go then to the investor placement, and where the investors would actually participate in the issuance of your CP. And once that is done, you can then approach NASD for listing. Okay, this takes us to I think the last platform for today, the digital securities platform. It's powered by blockchain technology, and it's quite unique because it captures not only what is happening now, but it also integrates the future into its existence. And let me just quickly distinguish that this is not cryptocurrency. This is not crypto. That's why it's called digital securities. In other words, a real life asset, let's say real estate, like Mr. Longe illustrated earlier, a construction company can digitize the property. So in other words, there is a digital representation of that physical property into what you call tokens. So those tokens are then listed on this platform, and investors can trade the tokens, which means if you invested in the tokens at the beginning and after 6 months you want your money back, you can also sell it on the market. And in that way, you don't have to restrict yourself to few money bags, as is commonly practiced today, where you have off-takers and then they give and then you have to sell at a huge discount. In this case, you can actually sell the tokens at the beginning at a discount, and as the project is developing, the value of your tokens are also developing. And upon conclusion of your project, you then also issue more tokens or sell to the mass market, and those who had invested earlier can take value. This is just like private placements that I'm describing for a company that is coming onto the market. Not totally exactly the same, but I'm just saying that is the closest representation if we think about it in terms of the market flow. So some of the unique features: multi-asset possibilities, the use of smart contracts, faster settlements, and so these are some of the examples of sectors that digital securities would really enhance, that suits the nature of digital securities. I think I've talked about this implicitly. So this is just a recap of the NASD platform. I shared this slide at the beginning just to indicate the 4 platforms. The first one is for public companies, and the only asset class there is equities. The second is for private companies. The asset class there is diverse. The third is commercial paper for both public and private companies, and the asset class is only debt. And the last one is digital securities platform, also for both public and private companies. And the asset class essentially is digital securities, which is tokens. This speaks to why NASD. I won't go over this. Mr. Longe already highlighted this earlier, and you can contact us. These are contact details. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Oludare. I must confess, your session very enlightening, and you can be assured that you'll be contacted before we leave today. I mean, there is a session for networking where people can meet you to ask you questions, apart from the panel session we're going into in a bit. All right? Just before we move into the panel discussion, which is very key to today's engagement, we'd like to have our sister, the Deputy Director, Head of Office of the Advocacy for Small Businesses Capital Foundation at SEC, Mrs. Ojene Cabri, make our presentation. Let's put hands together for her, please.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Oludare, you know, I'm not sure you know I'm an SME. So I am hoping that at some point you will have the privilege of breaking down some of those, your slangs for SMEs in this hall. Because some of those things you were saying, I think they are too sophisticated for some of them. That's what I think, though. As introduced, my name is Ojone Kebir. I'm privileged to be leading the team at the SEC. We advocate for small businesses capital formation in the capital market. Just in case what I say this morning, just in case you disagree with whatever I'm going to say this morning, just know that I am representing myself. But if anything I say suits well with you and you agree to anything I say, then know that I'm representing the SEC. The President, Council members of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Chairman, Board of Directors of NESD PLC, distinguished capital market operators, intermediaries, professional advisors, captains of industry, accomplished entrepreneurs, business leaders, members of the press, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to be here today at this important stakeholders engagement forum, jointly organized by the NESD PLC and the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I commend both institutions for bringing together key stakeholders to discuss a subject that is critical to Nigeria's economic transformation and sustainable growth. The theme of this forum, financing growth, propelling the real sector through the capital market, is both timely and relevant. It speaks directly to one of the most pressing challenges facing Nigerian businesses today, the need for sustainable long-term financing to support expansion, innovation, and competitiveness. The real sector remains the backbone of our economy. It encompasses manufacturing, agriculture, technology, healthcare, logistics, and other productive activities that drive economic growth, create jobs, improve living standards. Small and medium enterprises, in particular, play a critical role in this ecosystem, contributing significantly to employment and national output. Despite their importance, many businesses continue to face challenges in accessing affordable and long-term capital. Financing remains heavily dependent on traditional bank lending, which, while important, is often structured around shorter tenures, stringent collateral requirements, and repayment obligations that may not align with the growth cycle of these businesses. This is where the capital market can make a significant difference. The capital market provides businesses with access to long-term funding through a variety of instruments, including equity, bonds, commercial papers, crowdfunding platforms, private equity, and venture capital. These financing options enable businesses to raise capital in a manner that supports exportation, expansion, innovation, and long-term value creation. Recognizing the diverse needs of businesses at different stages of development, the Securities and Exchange Commission has worked with market stakeholders to establish regulatory frameworks and market platforms that facilitate capital formation across business life cycle. The NESD Enterprise Portal, for example, serves as an important platform for preparing emerging businesses for investment by encouraging improved corporate governance, record keeping, financial reporting, and investor readiness. Similarly, the NGS Growth Board provides growing companies with an opportunity to access public capital under listing requirements tailored to their stage of development. The Commission has also implemented a robust crowdfunding framework that enables eligible businesses to raise funds from a wider pool of investors through regulated digital platforms, thereby expanding financing opportunities while maintaining investor protection. For more established companies, the capital market offers alternative financing options through corporate bonds, commercial papers, and other fixed income instruments, reducing dependence on bank financing and helping businesses diversify their funding sources. In addition, our regulatory framework for private equity and venture capital continues to support investment into high-growth businesses, providing them with not only capital, but also strategic expertise and institutional support. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, access to capital is one side of the equation. The other is the ability of businesses to attract and retain investor confidence that is built on transparency, accountability, and sound corporate governance. Businesses seeking to access capital market funding must appreciate that investors look beyond business ideas. They also evaluate governance structures, financial discipline, risk management practices, and the quality of disclosures. Accordingly, I would like to encourage businesses to focus on 3 key areas. First is formalization and financial readiness. Businesses should ensure proper corporate registration, accurate financial reports, audited accounts, and compliance with applicable regulatory and tax requirements. Second is strong corporate governance. Effective boards, sound internal controls, transparent reporting structures, and succession planning are essential elements of sustainable enterprise development. Third is the engagement with professional advisors and licensed capital market operators. Issuing houses, stockbrokers, fund managers, solicitors, and other market professionals play a vital role in helping businesses navigate the capital raising process and position them for successful fundraising. At the Securities and Exchange Commission, we remain committed to creating an enabling environment that promotes capital formation, protects investors, and supports economic development. One of the key initiatives in this regard is the establishment of the Office of Advocacy for Small Business Capital Formation. This office was created to provide policy advocacy and to assist SMEs in understanding and assessing capital market opportunities. The Commission has also strengthened collaboration with institutions such as Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDAN, to support enterprises development and facilitate access to financing. Furthermore, through the Nigerian Capital Market Institute, we continue to provide capacity building programs and investor readiness initiatives aimed at equipping businesses with knowledge and skills required to access the capital market successfully. Ladies and gentlemen, the partnership between the NASD and the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry demonstrates the importance of collaboration in addressing the financing needs of the real sector. Sustainable economic growth requires a strong connection between business seeking capital and investors seeking viable opportunities. When businesses gain access to long-term financing, they are better positioned to expand operations, create jobs, increase productivity, and contribute more meaningfully to national development. This is why deepening access to capital market financing for the real sector remains a priority for the Commission and indeed for all stakeholders in the financial ecosystem. I therefore encourage members of the LCCI and the broader business community to explore the numerous opportunities available within the Nigerian capital market. The market has evolved significantly and offers a range of financing solutions capable of supporting businesses at every stage of growth. Also, I commend the NESC PLC and other market institutions for their continued efforts in developing innovative products and platforms that broaden access to capital. The Commission will continue to support initiatives that promote market development, innovation, and inclusive economic growth. As we deliberate today, I am confident that the discussions will generate general and practical insights and strengthen collaboration among stakeholders. Together, we can build a more vibrant capital market that effectively supports the growth aspirations of the Nigerian businesses and contributes to sustainable economic prosperity. On that note, I thank the organizers for the invitation, and I wish all participants a successful and productive engagement. Thank you all for your attention.
Once again, please let's put our hands together for Mrs. Ojene, please. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. As earlier stated, this panel discussion is very pivotal to the success of today's event. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Alhaji Sada Ladabaki, for joining us. He is the chair of the export group here at SCCI. Please put your hands together for Alhaji Sada Ladabaki. Thank you, sir. If you give Alhaji the microphone today, he can preach SCCI to you from now till you get to Kano. He's so engrossed with SCCI and all about it. Alhaji, thank you so much for the maximum support always. We'd like to go to the panel session right now. I'll bring out the moderator who will introduce the discussant and engage them for the next 45 minutes. I must confess that we are doing pretty well with our time, and thereafter we will have very good quality interactive sessions. I'd like to urge that while the panel session will be going on now, please pen down your questions. We will have enough time to have an engagement with the discussant, ask your questions, make clarifications where needed. Let me, with honor, bring up to stage as moderator for this session, Head Research Strategy at NASD PSA, Mr. Oludare Fajimolu, as he moderates this session. Mr. Oludare, please let's clap for him. Okay, he said I should assist in bringing up his panelists to the podium. Please take your time, take your seat. Please, as I recognize and bring up stage the discussant, please let's clap for them as they come. Mr. Adeyemi Olaniyonu, Managing Partner, Hercules Professional Services. Let's put hands together for him, Mr. Olaniyonu. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Also, MD Aiko Capital Investment Managers Limited, Mr. Stanley Unwachuku. Let's put hands together for Unwachuku. Thank you, sir. SCM Capital Limited, Mr. Alazan Guazo. Let's put hands together for Alazan. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Last but not the least, I will have beating myself if we don't have a woman on this panel discussion. Please put your hands together for a woman of elegance and intelligence, beauty plus brain. Ms. Koa Okukulabe, Head Legal and Compliance, NASD. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. She will prove me right that she's a woman of elegance and brain. Yes, I love those women. They want the woman to be in the middle. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for doing us women proud, yes. So the session is now left to the moderator. Please, like I said, ensure you have your questions drafted while the session is ongoing. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, and I welcome everybody to this panel session. I'm very excited to be part of this, and because I'm very sure it's going to be a very enlightening one, and we also would want it to be very interactive. So just as the MC mentioned, please have your questions in place so that once we go through a few sets of questions, or discussions rather, on the panel, then we'll also have an open floor where participants can ask their questions. So the purpose or the the structure of the panel is we have some form of representation of the ecosystem, of the capital market ecosystem on the panel. We have the enterprise in place in the person of Mr. Olani Yonu. We have the issuing house and a representative here in person of Mr. Al Hassan, and then of course the investor, that's Mr. Wachiku, and of course the capital market infrastructure, Ms. Koha, is on the panel. So the panel is structured to be very holistic. So I'm very excited to be part of this. I think I'll start with the enterprise, because at the end of the day, it's all about creating value for the enterprise. It's about, and the enterprise essentially is the engine of the economy. So we are here to provide the financial advisory services for the enterprise, or to invest in the enterprise, or to give legal opinion about the enterprise performance and so forth. So I'll start with you, Mr. Olaniyanu. The first question is, how critical has access to capital been to your company's growth and expansion journey?
Yeah. Good morning, all. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to represent the SME and talk about the challenges that we face. But before I proceed, I first of all want to salute every entrepreneur in the house, because it's not an easy task doing business in Nigeria, because the environment is very, very tough to do business. So capital is very, very critical to business expansion. And I would like to for my own business, because I'm into commercial ice production. So most of the equipment that we use are not produced in manufactured in Nigeria. So you have to import them from China. And to be honest with you, the capital market does not look for people like me. Let me just be honest with you. So the easy go-to are the traditional institutions like the banks, and most of their facilities are always short-term. And short-term, how will I put it? You want to buy an equipment, let's say for 20 million naira, and you are asked to pay back in 6 months. And the machine, for the machine to get to Nigeria, it might take you like 3 to 4 months. So how do you want to fund that? So how will I put it? So most of us, what we try to do is organic growth. Organic, we want to grow, and it's slow. So capital is critical, very, very critical to business expansion. But the access, as how will I put it, has always been with the traditional financial institution, not the capital markets. I don't know, maybe with now that NASD is coming, providing alternative, maybe we'll work more on that. But most SME, to be honest with you, does not even have that at the back of their mind, that there's opportunity for capital market fund, which is long term, which can help expansion. So I'm talking as a practitioner. Most of my colleagues, they don't even have that patience to even conceptualize that the capital market is there. So that's my view. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your perspective. I think I'll probably call on Mr. Hassan to comment about, he made a comment about the capital market is not for people for entrepreneurs. So, but just like when I was talking, I earlier said, I've also had experience where investors will say they are finding it hard to see real value. And on one hand, the companies, the issuers are saying there's no capital, the investor is saying there's no value. So my question to you, sir, is this: what does issuer readiness mean? Because I think that may be where the gap is. What does issuer readiness mean, and what are some of the indicators that you will look out for to say this company is ready to access the capital market?
Thank you, Dari. Let me cut all the jargons. I'm sure all of us here have bank accounts. Why do we have bank accounts? Because we have trust in those institutions. So that confidence that I can put my money in bank A and I can take it anytime I want, that will make me to continue to put that money in that bank. So if I start from there is money in this economy, investors' money. I'm sure a lot of us are aware of what you call treasury bills. Today, there will be a treasury bill auction. Last week, there was treasury bill auction. Over 1.5 trillion was raised via treasury bill auction last week. This money coming from investors. Today, I'm sure something around that will also happen. We know the money is being also mopped up by CBN through other means. People that have shares in either company listed in NSD or NGX know the story between January to date. What has happened? So there is investors' money in the market. So the critical issue is the SMEs. What do you need to do to attract that money? And they're very straightforward. So again, I ask you, you ask yourself, as an entrepreneur, no other investor now, change the cap to investor. What kind of thing do you look out for if you have to trust your money with another entrepreneur? If somebody approaches you now to ask you for investment in his company, what will you make you that comfortable to put that money in that company? And those things are very critical and are very straightforward. One is the credibility of your accounts, your financial records. Integrity of your financial records. Two, your business model. What are you doing? So you are into an investment scheme, or let me know your scheme, into whatever, maybe you are manufacturing, you are doing offering service, but of course, something trigger you to take that route because you have identified a need in the economy for that service or for that product. So that's your business model. So you need to convince me about the need of that product or service that you are doing. That's the business model. Then, what's your growth plan? How do you intend to go on the journey? Or what's the story so far in terms of what you have done? Then, what's your governance structure? Is it that is one man all? So it's Mr. A that take all the decisions, be it financial, be it legal, be it operations, be it technical, be it whatever, and so on. An investor does not want to see that. Just like when a bank gives you a credit, what they're after is to see how the money goes, how it comes back. So it's the same way with investors putting money in any business. How do I get my money back if I've given you a debt? Or if I invest in you, how do I get my returns? So I must trust all that you are doing, from the legal aspect to the financial aspect to the structural aspect, that this money will go in, it will be used for the purpose, and it will generate the return, and I will get my dividend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. I think we'll just continue that conversation about investors, because Mr. Stanley he works with ICO Capital Investment Managers, and they are an institutional investor. So my question will be, what, from your experience as a practitioner as an institutional investor, what are the key factors that you look out for before making an investment commitment in a company?
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I think he has actually helped pencil out all of those things when he spoke. First, I want to say that view that there is no money in the market for SMEs, I think it's rather the other way, rather that investors have monies and there's no viable companies to put it in. So I don't think the money is there, really. And on a daily basis, yesterday, today, tomorrow, we continue to face that issue of allocation. So where are the companies to allocate? If we're to look at a company and say, okay, how do we invest? First, we're looking at the viability of your business model, right? You have a model that you believe in. You have a narration or narrative which you have actually built and you think your business is viable, right? If you don't have the record, the history for me to look at to make a decision on whether I should invest or not, that becomes difficult. In other words, are you keeping the right record, your financial records? Is it audited? I think when Madam was speaking earlier, she mentioned most of these things in terms of governance. Now, which is what most people don't look at in terms of SMEs, but very critical for an investor. The business cannot run around you only. If I'm investing an amount or whatever in your company and anything happens to you tomorrow, that means my money is gone. So we want to see good governance structure in terms of, do you have a board or do you have some form of board, whatever it is? Do you have a system where your records are well kept? All of these things are actually critical in me determining whether I should invest in your company or not. And another thing is in terms of your cash flow. Because if I'm going to invest, I want to be confident that at time T plus whatever, 100, when I want to exit, I need to get my money out. Do you have that business you're doing or you think is attractive? Does it have a reliable cash flow where when I put in money at the other end, I can't take out my own money? The thing is, it's available, but the viability of those businesses, the corporate governance is critical. If you depend on a single supplier, that could be a risk factor. If your biggest customer or your customer is just one person, that could be a risk factor. Those are manageable though. But these things are big factors that we'll look at before we make an investment decision. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for your perspective. I mean, the conversation ended on corporate governance, so which just naturally takes us to Koha, who is the head of legal and compliance at NASD. So my question to you will be this. In terms of, for a company that is trying to raise capital for the first time, what are okay, maybe first of all, you probably help us shed some light on corporate governance standards generally, and then, I mean, I've been accused that some of my terms are, so maybe just what is corporate governance, you know, from that perspective, and then what are some of the standards or key corporate governance steps that a company that is trying to raise capital for the first time should put in place?
Okay, thank you. So I will start by not being unnecessarily worthy in my explanation. Corporate governance, basically, when you're talking about corporate governance, is having the structure in your management, in your business that will ensure that there is a particular compliance system in place, that you have the position, or you're well positioned to actually comply with the regulatory obligations in terms of your management system, in terms of your financial control, in terms of your internal control, in terms of your risk management. So basically, if you're thinking corporate governance, the first thing you should try to put in place is to ensure that you have a well-balanced board system. Your board should be comprised of your chairman, your independent directors, your non-executives, and the executives. The essence of that independent director on the board is basically to ensure that there is an independent view or independent oversight on the board of the company to direct or to lead the company in a more profitable manner or in a more profitable outlook. There's also the requirement in terms of corporate governance as well. You need to have specific board committees that will drive the company in terms of the business factor. You need your statutory audit committee, for example. I think one of the speakers had mentioned the financials. For a small business, you need to ensure that your financials are up to date, and you need to ensure that the financials are also audited. In that regard, you need to also engage an accountant. You also need to engage your auditor. And most of these auditors, they would need to be registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission to be able to guide you on the standards that are required, the information that is required to be contained in your financial statements. In addition to that, still speaking on corporate governance, if you look at the Securities and Exchange Code of Corporate Governance, the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance, you will see requirements such as there needs to be a separation between the role of the chairman and the CEO. The last speaker also mentioned that. Do you have one person running or making all the decisions? If you're sticking to a corporate governance structure, there needs to be that separation in that role to ensure that it's not just one person that makes the decision, it's not just one person that is in charge of driving the company, basically. I will also mention the need for internal control, in the need for risk management frameworks. There's also the need for your financial controls. And most importantly, the need for disclosure and documentation, because that will help the investors to understand your business, to understand the system, and to understand the trajectory of that, underpins your business. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your perspective. Maybe I'll just add from a market perspective also, is that when you are considering these things, you don't necessarily need to go for the big ticket companies like Big Four, for instance. The audits, if you're trying to do your audits and the audit of your company, you don't need the Big Four, the big names to do that. There are different, there are audit companies that are also in the SME space that you can also work with. So you don't just think it's all about, because based on my interaction with SMEs, cost is a major factor in doing business, and for professional services especially. So you can also, it's just an advice to consider companies within that SME space as well in seeking professional guidance. And from there, I'll come back to Mr. Olaniyan. In terms of capital raising, how you mentioned earlier that your capital market is not for SMEs. Have you attempted to raise capital with us before? I mean, from the capital market, and what has your experience been?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Before I move into that, let me just put advice. It's not that I'm saying I'm not going to access the capital market, but I think we have to be intentional. The capital market also needs to look at the peculiarity of the Nigerian environment and understand that majority of SMEs don't have those capacity. And I think starting with LCCI, and I believe that's one of the objectives of this engagement, is that there must be a program that you can incubate all these SME. You look at the industry that have high growth, then you can maybe have a pilot scheme that you try to incubate them, and from that success story, you can drag more SME into the capital market. So that's my advice. For me, okay, through the NASD, I've had a change of mindset. So I've started the journey trying to build, how would I put it, structure into my business. But I will give you an example. Most of my colleagues that are into the business, they don't have that patience. Because I have a background in accounting, I can understand why corporate governance is important. Imagine somebody that was buying diesel at 980 in January. Now he's buying almost like 2,000 naira. You are telling him to go and set up compliance, this and that. It's not, you just walk away. Because his immediate needs is to meet maybe production. So he's not even thinking about that. He's looking for who can bring the capital now to move his operation forward. So for me, I've had a change of mindset, and my appeal is to also SMEs that it's good to, how would I put it, sustainability of the business. Capital market is good for business. So we need to also change our vision for our business. We should not just be me. So thanks to NSD for educating me, because I've actually engaged with them about how can I get capital. So, and they've put me on that structure, and I hope to be one of their success story. So thank you.
Thank you. I think I'll just to add or comment also is, when Mr. Lunge was talking, he talked about the fact that the capital should be one of the first things that an entrepreneur should think about in setting out to run his business. That's the source of capital. And so source of capital should not be an afterthought. It should be part of the strategic thinking process for the company. And on that note, I would go back to Mr. Al-Hassan and ask you two questions in one. He mentioned that that an entrepreneur is always looking for, because of the problems, the challenges of the environment and so forth, the focus is always on now. Who can give me capital now? So my first question is, when should the enterprise or the SME begin to prepare to raise capital? I've also experienced it. They come to us, they say we need capital, there's an LP or there's some opportunity, and many times they lose that opportunity. So when should an enterprise begin to prepare to raise capital? And from your experience, what are some of the challenges that, okay, maybe let's start with that first. We probably, we hope we'll have more time and come back to that.
Okay. I quite understand where he's coming from when he's talking about the issue of the peculiarity of Nigerian environment. That's very true. But however, the fact also remains that you want other people's money in your business. So you just have to find a way of comporting those people to be able to trust your system in having that money. Now, again, and there is this popular saying as well, that investors don't come to solve problem with their money. They come to fund growth. So it's not when you are in trouble that you'll be looking for capital or you're looking for investors. It's actually when it's like looking forward. That's when investors will have that whatever and go to ride with you. Maybe it may be wrong for me to use the likes of the Dangotes, but today we know the story of Dangote, to how high he is today. Right now, I'm sure we are aware he's doing a private placement for the refinery too. And he did this thing on his own to something extent, and now he's loading it to investors, and people are scrambling to go into it. So if we can liken it to the same SME at the all level as well, in terms of start preparing. In fact, there are what we call angel investors. So who will also take into consideration the peculiarity of the entrepreneur, subject to the fact that they can believe in the business model itself, number one, the seriousness of the entrepreneur, in terms of having those kind of structures. Maybe it's only constrained by the system or the environment at that material time. So if an angel investor is convinced, or venture capitalist investor can actually put in money there. But again, even at that, there are some minimum requirements that must be met by the SME before you can even attract those guys. So, and of course, I think I've mentioned those things. The critical is the business model, number one. Two, the entrepreneur's vision and the seriousness in terms of the structures themselves. Not that because he's shying away from the structures, no, he's actually probably constrained. And the venture capital in some time go even to fund having that structures. They can appoint some of those because it's appointing an accountant, appointing some, they will do that for you and pay for it. So far they believe that the totality of the thing is actually something worth looking at. Thank you. I don't know that I've answered that question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wachuku, my question to you will be this. So a lot has been said about financial performance and auditing, preparation, and so forth. From an investor's perspective, what are some of the non-financial factors that you will consider before making an investment commitment?
All right, thank you. Just first, I just want to point out something that he said earlier when he spoke, gave an example of colleagues that bought diesel for like 900, and after a week, it's about 1,200. So as Nigerian capital market continue to evolve, so we'll come to the point where we have forwards to help solve all of this kind of issues. So you notice that when the issue around the US, Israel, and Iran started, the impact was not immediate on some airlines because they had forward contracts that guarantees them the purchase of fuel over a period of time. So one of the good things about the capital market is that it evolves over time. And we are gradually getting there in Nigeria, where as an entrepreneur, right, you go into a forward contract, go to some contract that covers certain expense that you think might rise in the in the medium to short term. That will help you keep costs relatively to a particular minimum. On the issue of looking at for investors beyond just beyond just numbers, one is the quality of management. So you have your idea, you have your vision, you have your business model, which is very good. Now, the quality of management in terms of the capacity to take this idea or this business from where it is to that projection you have on paper. So there is that gap between where you are and that projection. And the reality is that while the paper numbers and the ideas, the visions look pretty good, if we don't have the quality, the right set of persons within the organization, it will be difficult to move the organization, that company to that point. The second thing it has to do with within the company, again, come back to corporate governance, which is putting the right structure in place. If investors don't see structure, no matter how big or small the company is, structure is the lifeblood. If investors don't see structures, it becomes very difficult to convince an investor that, oh, we could put monies here. I'll give you a good example. A couple of businesses last year that had to come into the market, but through the commercial paper and stuff. And I know that as at that time we started talking to them, they were not that structured. It took a while to put the right things in place. Go to the point of getting them to prepare financials, go back after 3 years financials, and even to the point of even looking for a credit rating. So all of these processes, what we discovered is that though it is a relatively one-man, two-man business, but by the time we're done, it was extensive, right? And what that did was open you up to capital. So those money began to flow in. So the management capacity is very, very important. You have those internal controls within it that look at how things are run. If you have a particular, again, I'm going to say this before, if you have a business that depends on a single supplier, you begin to look for how will you survive if that supplier is not there, if it's out of business. So the basic thing is for us investors, structure. Again, structure is critical. If that structure is not there, you hardly attract funds, because the truth is that, yeah, you love your business. For an investor, I'm coming in here to make money. That's the truth, to make profit. And even though I know I want to contribute to the economy, I want to see the other industry evolve over time and for the betterment of the entire economy. But first and foremost for an investor is, if I put my money here, can I take it out? And can I also make profit on what I've done? So structure is the lifeblood of it. Thank you.
Sorry, Dari, I wanted to add the fact that I'm sure we are aware of what's going on in the commercial paper market. If you look at it, most of the participants in that market are people that companies that are ordinary before are not even, like, you don't even hear names, you don't name them. Every day you see names that you have never heard of. So these are also companies that probably people believe that they could not have access to this market. But today, look at what's happening. I don't think I've heard of any commercial paper transaction that has failed, or that is undersubscribed. Or when I say undersubscribed, meaning to the extent that it's aborted. So it shows you. And what happened, the background story to that is the fact that it's the market readiness of those companies. So most times you take those companies from where they are to get them market ready and to access this commercial paper. And I think that a lot is going on. Right now, there is a company I'm working on. They are very big, really big, but they don't have structure. It's complete. The financial records are in shambles. The corporate structure is not there. And yet, the turnover is in billions. So, of course, the first question the first statement I made to the proprietor of that business that the moment you are gone, this business is gone. But he thinks probably he has built an empire, but he has built an empire on his sand. He's only the rock there, and the moment that rock is moved, the whole thing will collapse. And we're already working on it to bring him back, to put this proper structure, get him market ready, and even if for the sake of it, let him assess the market for readiness, then probably from there we'll take it on. Commercial paper transactions, some have moved to bond, some have moved to equity, because they are now market ready. They keep on getting market ready at every stage. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. And I think what resonates is structure and the fact that it is possible. Companies are doing it. We are seeing it every day. New companies are coming up in the commercial paper. So those that are not that were not previously knowledgeable or acquainted with the capital market are beginning to assess the capital market by complying with certain standards. So I'll come to Koha once again, and this
acceptable for a company to be listed, or before a company can raise a commercial paper and be listed on any NASD? What rating is required? Thank you.
Sir, your question.
Good day, everybody. My name is Mr. Chukwuemeka Anthony. I'm into college, and we're upcoming. I want to stand on the questions of the face of SME there. He has asked several questions, and a lot has not been addressed. Why I'm here is to see the alternative route to financing. He has been clamoring on bringing the SMEs closer. We've not seen the answer. He is trying to address the issues, but I've not seen a convincing answer, because what I'm hearing here is exactly the way the commercial banks give loan. If it's that same way, we are not going anywhere. And if you cannot accommodate the SMEs, this country is going nowhere. I'm into college. I know when I applied for loan to get a truck, I couldn't get it. I fall back to Kumbo. And the Chinese people that are in a free trade zone where we operate, they charged us. We cannot operate with them because their government are ready to, you have access to go and pick some raw materials and supply to the companies that are operating in a free trade zone. They give them loans to get 10 trucks. The same thing happened to me when they were doing Lagos-Calabar coastal road. I requested for, I could not see where I can get. But the people that started with me with 2 trucks, mint, today they are getting 20 trucks. Well, I'm still struggling with Tokumbos. So how do we bridge the gap? What is the alternative way to get these loans? Secondly, the capital market, I understand today that you are open for SMEs. That's one point. What of the interest to the finance? What do we do to the interest? What do we do to the interest?
Thank you, sir. They are noting your questions, yes. Yes, last but not the least, I think.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, panelists and LCCI for organizing this. Okay, so my question, I have two. Let me ask one first, and that is, I want to know the deliberate measure that is in place for, maybe from any SD and market operators to ensure that I need to increase access to capital for women-led enterprises and women entrepreneurs in the real sector. Because I want to be sure that you're being deliberate about that. And it is not going to be like this panel. I was just going to stage out when there was no woman on the panel until only one woman was brought in. So we want to be sure that you are deliberate about increasing access for women in the capital market. That is one. And secondly, since, because most of the things that were discussed, like others have said, is more for, not really for SMEs, actually. They are not so SME friendly. And yes, I don't also want to remain small. I don't want to be in SME forever. I want to, grow. So for a company that is not yet large enough for a public listing, what is the most realistic pathway for it to begin engaging with capital markets today? Thank you.
Thank you. They are noting those questions. Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to be very brief. My name is Andre. I am with Axgas. I feel sorry for the gentleman that you are sandwiched by a lot of... Well, quick question. What's the provision for, I don't know who I should ask this to. Let's assume you give out your funding. What's the provision for changing government policies as it affects your business? For instance, we invested in the compressed natural gas space, which is where I operate. We created conversion centers, created daughter stations, And all of a sudden, there was a gap for about 7 months from the government's change of policies. So we were stuck. So what do we do? Because typically you will come after me. The model is there. Everything you said we should structure is there, but there's a gap because this is solely dependent on or driven by the government. So what's your provision for government policies and changes in that space? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Ma, I take this as the last one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Good morning, good afternoon or morning, everyone. My name is Ololade Akamo. I'm a representative of Classic Fagers. We do different kind of corporate branding and promotional items. Here is my question. Are there ways that NASD can help us with their financial advisors? Because I remember that he said we have to come through a financial advisor before we can access the NASD platform. What I want to say is that maybe we can subscribe per annual, like yearly or monthly, in order for us to be able to access this financial advisor. So I will already know that, okay, in our company, we have our financial auditor coming once in a month to track our record, or probably this should be based on, what is it called, on our yearly subscription. So it will give us more access to take record and all of that. So we will not have to be spending a lot of money hiring accountants, paying them monthly, because sometimes at our business, let me say for instance, now, at our company, we may not be able to meet up our target for a month, but after 3 months, it could just be one sales that will help us to make the target of 3 months or 6 months. So things like that, I don't think I really need to hire an accountant and be paying that accountant every month when there are no sales. I understand that there are daily, daily expenses in the organization. And at the end of it, we could just get to document all those things monthly. So if the financial advisors can help us with a subscription, different packages, I think it will be better. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, to the moderator and the panelists, I believe we've all picked the angles that concern us and we like to address as brief as possible so that we'll proceed to what is next. We are actually 20 minutes behind schedule. Okay, just take it that way. Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. So let me just start with somebody spoke about interest rate, that the rate is quite high if they want to get funds. So let's be realistic for a bit, right? Everyone here invests in one way or the other. Money market fund, extra money is you ask your friend that works with an asset management firm or one firm or the other, and you tell them you want to invest 10 million naira, 5 million naira. And when they tell you 10%, you tell them for what? Why 10% is too small? You tell them you want 25%, 30%. That money that you want 30% is the same money you want to come and collect. And you want to pay 5%. Because for the asset management firms, right, we get monies from investors, right, from people, and everyone brings in monies. Those monies come in at a cost. And if I have monies at 15%, for example, right, I won't give it to you at 10%. I have to look at your risks. I have to put something on them because the person that gave me money to pay the person back. And because we have a system where there's a general hike or there is high rise in terms of interest rate across the economy, that would be a problem for a while because of interest rate. If we go back to 2020, 2021, interest rate was at 3%, 2%. And at that time, I know a lot of people came into the market to quickly do bonds and all of that. People came into the market to borrow. So that would have been an ideal situation for most entrepreneurs to get cheaper funds. But given where we are right now, the climate, where we are right now in terms of the economy, in terms of the level of interest rates, even the average minimum rate from risk-free rate is from the Central Bank of Nigeria, we see that to an extent, that rate will stay elevated for some time. However, is it possible that we attract fund, the entrepreneurs, you attract fund, utilize that fund, and still you're able to pay that rate? It's relatively possible. Now, if we go back to what we spoke about before, about transparency and about structure, investors want to invest quite well. They want to invest, but we want to invest where there is structure. We need to put those things in place. You're an entrepreneur, correct? I know most people that are used to investing must have invested personally in one haulage business or the other, one business, and it never comes out well. Most of the time, not to say everyone, I could tell you that a company raised a private note sometime, was it last year? Last year, about 2 billion naira last year. And it was meant for a specific kind of, it was transportation. And till today, even though it was structured to an extent, to today, we're not able to even come out of that business, right? One thing that is important is that structures need to be in place. It is non-negotiable. I understand the fact that we need to come down to the part of, for entrepreneurs to understand this, and that is that's where mentorship comes in. There needs to be a lot of mentorship, a program that provides that ground for entrepreneurs to learn how to structure the business. And I think what she had said, the last person had said about the need to assess professional persons to provide some services, also a good idea where you could create a platform where you have professionals within that platform. Anyone could subscribe to all of their services, whether accounting, whatever services you need, you could come within that platform, pay a subscription. That could be a good idea. But in reality for us, the monies we see we have to invest is actually those monies come at a cost. And for me to invest that money, I have to cover my cost. And for me to cover my cost, I need to raise whatever I'm giving you above whatever I've got. If I have a 20%, I need to put at least a 0.5% on it. If I have a 5%, I need to put at least a 1% or 0.5% on it. So for now, we hope we get to the point where interest rate comes down. But for now, this is where the market is, for now, relatively though. That's my view.
Okay. I think, yes, you have almost answered all your questions, but I will add some few words. I think the lady asked about this rating. Yes, that what we call investment grade rating, and that's BBB minus. So BBB minus is what's investment grade. However, still going back to the SME, I wish Alhaji is here when he raised that issue about the fact that the money the banks at the CBN refuse to give out. I used to work in a bank before, and I handled the SME portfolio of my bank at that time. And it's now a defunct fund that we know. Can we ask ourselves sincerely what happened? Why did it fail? Yeah, there are some success stories out of it, definitely. I know some, I can mention one that all of you know. It came from SME. Today is a big organization. But a lot of them failed because of the same issue we have been talking about. Structure, and the integrity and transparency of financial records. I remember my bank invested in one of the SME who is into production of foam, mattress, thereabout. And at that time, we just approved a disbursement for him to go in to buy raw materials for the production of those mattresses and pillows or whatever and so on. He went down to the branch downstairs to do the first cashing, and he shared part of that money to the tellers. He was sharing to the tellers part of that money. And they were upstairs. The branch manager told us that this is what has happened. Oh. And again, of course, it's gone. We never recovered that money. And that production, he only produced for a while, and the company was shut down. So a lot of these stories are what killed that scheme. Yes, ACA, African Capital Alliance, tried a lot in terms of even trying to manage some of the SME on behalf of the banks. They put some structures, they put even appointment in some of this. Still, if you ask them, I'm sure they will tell you the success story of the portfolio, what percentage of that was successful. So you can see we can never, no matter how we sympathize with the level of the SMEs, the issue of structure and financial integrity can never be taken away. So what instruments are available for SMEs is still the same thing, like I said earlier on. Even if you only have a business model and you show that level of seriousness and readiness, there are who we call angel investors that can believe in you and can ride the trend with you. But it's a case-by-case basis. So and those angel investors are not many, to be sincere. But there are some that are ready to look at you, to look at your model, to look at the seriousness of who you are, and probably they agree to go right with you. And so the market readiness, again, is about, yes, I said it also, investors don't come to solve problems. And a lot of times, usually SMEs, when they have problems, they will start looking for money. So you have to, it's a journey. So, and that's why the issue, I appreciate the fact that NASD and even what I like to say in the part of the LCCI say, and SCC will work together in mentoring SMEs towards getting them market ready for these things. To be sincere, there is a stage where you can be market ready, where you can be able to access money. There are stages that you are only qualified for bank loan. Even the type of bank loan also matters. There is a stage that you can only qualify for bank overdraft. There's a stage where you only qualify for a certain amount of term loan or something like that. So it's a stage-by-step thing before you can actually be ready to access a capital market fund. Yes, a lot of AGS, SEC, NASD, they all have certain things in terms of, okay, he said MSC, we can waive this, we can waive that, but there are certain minimums that cannot be waived. That's the truth. Thank you.
Okay, just to ride on what you have said, we have in NASD, we have the NASDEP that Mr. Dari has mentioned, the MD has mentioned, is a platform for SMEs to come into the capital market to raise funds. I mean, what we are trying to do is to bridge the gap, to give entrepreneurs and SMEs access to the capital market. So you can come to NASD and we can hold your hand and lead you to the process and probably advise you and link you to those advisors and, just take you through the process on how you can raise capital. One of the questions was about women, giving access to women in the capital market. This will also be an avenue that you can also take advantage of. You can reach out to NASD who will, give you the right footing to start on that process, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And good enough that you've gotten the feedback from the entrepreneurs. So I would still want to appeal to the capital market operators that maybe you take it as your social responsibility, because why? The SME is the engine room of Nigerian economy. And if you want this country economy to reach the $1 trillion, it's not going to happen by magic. Foreigners will not do it for us. It is we that we're going to do it. So I want you to see it more as social responsibility, not just based on profit only. So that's my advice. Thank you.
Yeah. Please, the MD has a comment to make regarding some of the issues. Yes.
Sorry, I thought you won't hear my voice again until the next session. But there were some questions that I know that the panelists have taken a lot of time to answer most of the questions. But there are some questions that are specific. One of the questions was on this barrier when you're trying to raise money in the bank about turnover. I think the first thing to say is that and it isn't a very nice thing to say, but this is the reality. Not every business will succeed. It's important to know that. So if your business must succeed, you must do the right things to make your business succeed. And that's the thing about structure. I mean, the gentleman spoke about the haulage business. I call that business the devil's business. Because it's the devil's business because you can set your truck from Lagos to Ibadan, and you will find it in Maiduguri. Because those people don't have any conscience about what is going to happen. I'm an investor. I give you money to run a haulage business. And look, you don't have control about what's going to happen. So all of us are going down. And we don't want that. So it's not as if we won't support you, but we need to be realistic about what will make sense and what will be successful. So we both sit down and we are patient enough to say, where will this go? There's no emotion about this thing. Will it succeed or it won't? If it won't succeed, all of us are going down and there's no growth. So that's important. About turnover from banks, the bank ecosystem is very different. The bank determines how they think you will succeed if you're doing big business. So banks don't encourage you to come. I think a bank said to us that they're not into the business of venture capital. So they're looking at what you are today. They can't really be too passionate about what you're going to be tomorrow. So if you by some strong head, grow your business to become attractive, they will be there. They will be sending people to you. That's the name of the game. So you have to find a way to survive. And I think for us, there are certain things that we can do to help you. And that's one of the things we're talking about on the table. So we can try and ameliorate the financial advisor's fees by creating a structure, right, that people actually kind of contribute money to, so that you can actually tap into that pool without having to pay those upfront fees. Those are one of the things that we'll do. And from here, I think this is really just a beginning of the dialogue. We want to be a little more consistent about this. Some of the things you've heard today, we're going to have to deal with a little more, and we're going to have to deal with other fora where there's some incubation and knowledge sharing and capacity building, so that would help us significantly. And as for the size of what you have to approach the capital market, let me say that the capital market is not so much about the size of your business. It's about the quality of the business you have. And I must round up by saying that your business is yours. It's not a third party's business. It is yours. So you have to think through it carefully. You have to take charge of the success of your business, right? When it is going wrong, you have to find a way to cure it. If you have a child that has a sickness that has to be treated, you will find a way as a parent to ensure that that child survives. That's what you have to do to your business. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Find a way to ensure the child survives. Please permit me to make a tweet on the order of program. We're supposed to take the plaques now, but we'll suspend that for another 1 minute. Next is supposed to be the photograph. Also, that will be suspended. But permit me to bring up the Director General of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry for a closing thought. She's supposed to be in another meeting right now, and I don't want her face to be missing in camera. Please put your hands together for the Director General as she makes her closing remarks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. That's better. So, thank you so much, everyone, distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, the panelists. Thank you so much for that very robust discussion. Representatives of NASD, PLC, members of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, MD, Mr. Longe, thank you very much. Representative of the President of the Chamber, Sir Ladi, thank you very much. As we bring this strategic stakeholder event to a close, I just want to express my sincere appreciation. I thank you all for being here. Sometimes you have an event and towards the end people start to leave because they're not finding it very interesting. But you have all remained here, so I really say thank you to all of you. Today's conversation has reinforced one basic thing, that sustainable economic development cannot happen without the real sector. And when Mr. Longe was making his opening speech, he did say very passionately about the real sector and the fact that, you know, it's kind of been depleted over the years. And from his comment, he really would like a situation where the real sector comes back together and continues to grow. But we know that the real sector cannot thrive without patient capital. Some of the questions we've heard here today are really about how do I get the funds that I need to run my business. And so you need, and I was checking the online questions, somebody was asking about, was saying something about short-term funding that is expensive. So traditionally, most SMEs, most enterprises, they've leaned on short-term funding that is very expensive. And I heard one of the panelists describing somebody buying machinery using short-term fund. Also, they've leveraged on traditional banking financing and also on family and friends. But these financing avenues are not very sustainable in themselves. So today we have really looked at some of the opportunities that could exist within the capital market for businesses to, you know, scale, to expand, to do what they are supposed to be doing to unlock long-term growth. We have also heard valuable perspectives on engaging with the capital markets, regulatory support for capital raising, investor expectations. I like when somebody said, I think it was Mr. Hassan that said, investors don't come to solve problems, they come to fund growth, right? Yes, they come to fund growth. So investor expectation, governance requirement, thank you very much. She did a lot talking about the governance requirement before you get the fund, but also after you have received the funding, what expectations there are. And really practical pathways for businesses to access funding. These insights are particularly important at this time when businesses are navigating very difficult economic situations. At Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we are committed to advocating for policies and initiatives that will improve access to finance, strengthen investor confidence, and support enterprise development. And like Alhaji Sada did say, we want initiatives that will be SME friendly, so that our SMEs can, you know, take advantage of it. So it is essential that we support SMEs, because we keep saying SMEs are the engine of growth, SMEs are the backbone of the economy, but if we don't support them, then we really can't grow. Therefore, it's important that as we think of the different avenues for accessing funding, we are thinking what would be most appropriate for SMEs. So I would like to particularly thank NSD PLC for partnering with us to convene this important forum. I think the MD did say that this is just the beginning. This is to open the doors, that we're going to do more of this so that people can ask questions, they can be guided on what to do. This collaboration does demonstrate the value of bringing together key stakeholders to address challenges and identify practical solutions that support business growth. So my appeal for our participants today is really simple. Let the conversation not end here. I understand that there's a desk outside there with NASD team waiting to guide you, waiting to explain to you a bit more of what they have shared today. We are all responsible for growing Nigerian economy, and we must join hands together to do so. So on behalf of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I want to thank you all for your participation, and I wish you safe travels as you go on. But also I wish you a fruitful engagement, because after here, after the formal setting, we continue to network and to ask questions and to receive answers. Thank you very much. God bless us. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you so much. God bless you too. Ma, just before you rush into that all-important meeting, we'd like to take a photograph with you. Sir, MD of NASD, please, representative of our president, Sir Ladi Smith, and Mrs. Ojene Kabiri, please join us. Let's take this first set of photographs. This one in particular is for the press. Mr. President, sir. No, so can we? Yes, so that we can have it. Please, let's. Sir, can we? Let's just step off your own picture. Okay, let's move to the center. Yes, it's a bit. Yes, let's move closer. Yes, let's shoot. Yes. Alaji Sada Ladabaki, just hold on. Alaji Sada Ladabaki, please let's join. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, Mr. President, I would like to bring you. So, we'd like to make the presentation to. So, I'll call, I believe, our panelists. Let me just have the name. Okay, first, Mr. President, sir. Thank you. First is Mr. Alzan Guazo. Please, let's put hands together for Mr. Alzan as he takes this. Let's clap for him, please. Thank you, sir. Are you good? Next is Mr. Deyemi Olaniyonu. Let's put hands together for Mr. Deyemi, please. Sir. Next is Mr. Stanley Nwachuku. Let's put hands together for Mr. Stanley. Next is Ms. Koa Okuku Labe. Let's put hands together for her. We are not clapping for her, please. Ladies, let's clap for her. Yes. Last but not the least, Mr. President, is Mrs. Ojone Kabir. Let's put hands together for Mrs. Ojone, please. Let's clap for her. Mr. President, I'm told this is the last one. Mr. Lunge Ekwahide. Please, let's put hands together for him, the MD. Thank you, sir. You didn't get our picture. Okay. So, Mr. President. So, hold on, MD. There is the last one. He wants us to take this picture.
Okay.
Yeah, just the three of you. Are you good? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right? Okay, we should have all the panelists together. Okay. I'm told that we should have all the panelists. Please, let's just step out with your plaques. The photographer wants you to be together as recipients. Please, let's just come out. Mr. President will join you. Yes, can we bring out our plaques? That makes it unique. Where is MD's own? Is MD with his own? Okay. Yes. This is the last thing we are doing, man. You won't miss your flight. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. On that note, we'd like to call it a day for this program. You remember that the DG had already given our closing remarks. And as our custom is, we began with national anthem. We'd like to officially close with our national anthem. Please, let's be upstanding as we take the national anthem for a close. National anthem for a close.
To serve our sovereign fatherland.
No volume. Oh, please, let's take it. 1, 2, 3, go. Nigeria.